evening. We're on a planet to take another terrifying journey into the world of mystery, suspense, and terror. Let's turn on all the lights, lock the doors and windows, sit back and enjoy this evening's chilling tale.
All right, well, thank you folks out there in internet land for tuning that dial to the Eek channel. My name is James, and today I am joined by my co-host on my right,
Denny.
And this is Eek Live, a show that is basically your weekly online house party where everyone wants to talk about scary movies. And today I am super excited to introduce our special guests, Heidi and Stefan from the I Scream podcast. How you guys doing?
Hi, we're good, thanks. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. So this is the first time that we've actually used our little call-in system that we have here, and it seems to be working. So hopefully it keeps working as the episode goes on. So before we really get going, I just want you guys to take a moment and tell us about the Ice Cream Parlor podcast. Tell us kind of what caused you guys to get it started and kind of what you're doing over there.
Well, I've been a fan of horror since birth, really. It was an interesting womb, but I've ever since the whole podcast medium has been out, I've always said, I want to do a podcast. I want to do a horror podcast. I want everybody to know what I'm referencing because I reference horror movies all the time and people think I'm insane.
That's awesome.
It's been hard for me to find a co-host, and luckily Stefan just said, I'll do it, fine. And he's been great because Stefan doesn't have as much exposure as I have to horror movies and or the entire genre. So it's pretty cool.
I come from a music background, so I do, music, and I know audio recording and stuff like that. And I like horror movies, but I never consider myself like a super fan. Like I watch them. I kind of like I don't delve deep into like who the directors are, who all whatever. But I've always kind of been a fan of horror movies, also as a child. But again, she's more of the expert, and then I kind of come in with the audio angle. So we teamed up and we figured let's see what we can do. And so a lot of the movies we're watching, she might have seen, I haven't, and so I get to kind of have a first person's experience on it, and some of them we are watching again.
In no way am I an expert. I just really enjoy them. I don't remember that many directors as far as the basics. But they're just a lot of fun, and I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and video rental places were a big thing. And being latchkey kids, my little brother and I, we would just ride our bikes to the corner video rental store, and it was cheaper to rent B-rated horror than it was to rent anything else. So that's where we naturally went to, and then we just loved it from that moment on.
Yeah, that's so awesome. It was kind of the same for me too. I had one friend that I really grew up with, and literally riding our bikes to the video store every single Friday, saving our quarters. Like it was a simpler time, but it was a magical time, Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's. I want to know just a little bit about your guys's kind of horror history too. Like maybe one of the first ones that you saw that really stuck with you, and that maybe a lot of times we probably saw them when we were too young, and it kind of scarred us for a little bit, and that's kind of what made us like scary movies or like being scared. Do either of you guys have a story kind of like that?
Well, so the first scary movie I remember watching was Firestarter.
Okay.
And and that was with Drew Barrymore when she was a kid.
Yeah.
I don't remember being scared as much as I was like, oh, I want those powers. But after that, the only other scary movie intro, I guess, was Child's Play. And I'm a child of immigrant parents who didn't know the language, so they thought Child's Play is a kids movie.
Yep.
So
Sounds like deceptive.
so my brother and I went at maybe 4 and 6 to go watch Child's Play, and I was so into it. My brother was not. But also being a child of immigrants, we try to get our money's worth, so we stayed as long as we could.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, but that's what was my initial. That was my start, I want to say, to horror movies. It was Child's Play, and then what else is there? And then I went through definitely my Argento phase, because mostly those are the ones that are not rented. Nobody knows about all the goodness there.
That's awesome. Stefan, do you have like an early memory of horror movies, or did you kind of come into it later?
No, well, no. So my parents were a little bit on the stricter side growing up, where you can't watch rated R movies and all that. So I did. I was. So for me, as corny as it sounds, it was kind of Freddy Krueger that shocked me as a kid, because I lived down the street from an Elm Street.
Yes, so that's awesome.
5-year-old or 6-year-old, I just believed that he lived down there. And so the first time I had ever seen anything Freddy related, I was just kind of scared of it. And I had some uncles that were older, and so they would go to the movie store and rent rated R movies. Sometimes I'd sneak up and try to like watch it from behind when I was supposed to be in bed or whatever. But so that was kind of like the childhood years. I didn't really get to see as many until finally I was able enough to go to the store myself. And then as like a young adult, I started watching a lot more, just I don't know. I kind of don't get scared of horror movies anymore, so I like to watch them with other people to see if they get shocked. So I guess that's my interest in it. And so like I would then start to find really crazy B-rated movies, and then try to bring a bunch of friends together to see who could last through them all, I guess.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that's my kind of take on it, I guess.
Cool. All right. Now I feel like anyone who watches a decent amount of horror movies, you're always going to get asked this question by someone at some point, and I hate answering this question, but I'm going to ask it to you guys anyway.
Okay.
Have you had a movie that really kind of messed you up or really stuck with you, or maybe it's like just the scariest one that you've ever seen, anything like that?
Stefan?
Well, only more recently as an adult, the only one that's really like, I guess it didn't really mess me up, but I have watched this Serbian film. I don't know if any of you have.
Oh my God. No, I have not.
Yeah, that one is a little tough to, and I funny enough, again, because I like to watch
He's
things
watched
with
it
friends,
multiple times.
too many. But I mean, outside of that, like I don't scare too easily. So once I got out of my little kid phase, like the movie monsters and the ghosts and all that didn't really scare me so much anymore. But yeah, that one definitely is kind of on the top of the list. But I've told her about it. She hasn't seen it. And I kind of try to warn her not to watch it.
For lack of a better term, he said I'm not allowed to, but it just makes me want to do it that much more.
Right.
But so I haven't seen that. For me, there was a phase of just Korean horror movies that I was into, and I don't remember the name, but it takes place in some kind of boarding school for the deaf and mute.
Interesting.
And it is it's based on a true story. It's horror, but it's what I like to call realistic horror. My favorite part of horror movies is seeing the human element of it and how real it actually is.
Yeah.
And this movie was based on a true story, and just the scenes in there are so brutal. And it definitely messed me up in that I forgot the name and I don't want to watch it ever again. But it was really, really good. Other than that, we haven't watched for Ice Cream Parlor.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't watched The Exorcist because I need to record that during the daytime. Because but yeah, I kind of try. I'm able to stomach everything. I saw Cannibal Holocaust for the first time ever, and that turtle scene was horrible. That turtle scene, like you can't unwatch that.
Yeah, you can't.
Well, one of the first movies that we watched together, or that I had told her that she needed to watch, was Martyrs, the original French version.
Yeah.
So that was one that I watched that with many friends as well too when I first discovered that.
And the reason we decided to make it work is because he showed me that movie, and I'm like, okay, give me another one.
Yeah, Martyrs is one. It's kind of been, so we watch a movie every Monday, and we've been doing that for like the last 3 to 4 years. And
wow.
Yeah, and we didn't start the podcast until just the beginning of this year, but we just had a group of friends, and like it actually started because we're all dudes, and all of our significant others were getting together and watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette on Mondays.
Yep. I forgot what it was. How did we get here?
And we were all just sitting at home and like, well, maybe we should hang out too. And so we're all like, well, we all kind of like scary movies. Let's watch a different movie every week. And then we just kept doing it. And so Martyrs is one that's been on the list for a very long time. And we've just been waiting for the right moment where we actually feel like we can stomach it.
I would. So they did I think they re-released it, but before they re-released it, there's also a dubbed version. But I would advise to watch the original French version with subtitles.
Okay.
That's a good tidbit. There is also one called Antichrist, which isn't as fast-paced and jump scare as many of the others we may have watched.
Interesting.
But Antichrist has a lot of brutal scenes, and it really leaves you uneasy.
Yeah, that one's was Willem Dafoe, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I was creeping on you guys a little bit. I did my research whenever we knew we were going to have you on, and I listened to a few episodes. And you guys did an episode on a movie that I think is super underrated. Danny, we watched it on a Monday, but I'm not sure if you were here or not. It was The Changeling.
I was not here for that one.
Oh, I love that movie, and I feel like it just does not get enough attention, not as much as it deserves.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you on that one. It is such an amazing, if you're into ghosts and haunted houses.
Yeah.
This is a have to. It has to be on your list. You have to watch this movie.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely amazing. It's so good. And there's just that opening scene, and then you kind of die a little bit because your heart breaks. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, that one I've always heard about, but I had never seen it, and so we watched it for the podcast, and I enjoyed it a lot. It was a good movie.
Yeah, so good. All right, so do either of you have just a kind of a favorite scary movie, or maybe a favorite franchise, or just something that always kind of keeps you coming back? Like, what's your kind of comfort food horror movie?
It's funny that you call it comfort food, because it definitely, I think Stefan has walked into me just laying in bed watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The 1974 version just is the best. That franchise, I mean, from the 1974 in through even the Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, Next Generation.
Like the entire, like, it's good. I even watched the remakes, which I don't like remakes, so I try not to watch them. But I watched the remakes of that franchise, and they were still decent.
Yeah.
They were good, But that's my comfort food.
Yeah. Nice. Franchise wise, I don't know. I mean, like, I've always been. I like the Halloween series. You know, I think it's a good one. But then, as it gets further down the line, it starts to get a little, the more modern it gets, the ones with like Busta Rhymes and all that stuff. A little bit, whatever. But I mean, obviously the John Carpenter one is amazing, and I do like Michael Myers as a brand and an entity. It's cool. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, you guys recently did an episode on the Halloween franchise.
We did. Yeah, that was actually last week even. So actually one of our other co-hosts who's not on today, his name's Cody, and he is a really big Halloween fan. And so we had kind of been, I didn't want to turn him loose on it at the very beginning of our podcast, so I was kind of waiting until the right time, and we felt like last week was the right time. But yeah, we did a whole episode on the breakdown, and then we reviewed the 2018 one. What did you guys see the 2018 remake / sequel?
So Rob Zombie was my childhood crush.
Oh,
so yes.
Nice.
So we've had some words. I did love it, of course, some of it out of dedication to Rob Zombie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I did like it separately. Like if it hadn't been part of Halloween and that whole franchise, which is amazing in its own right, of course, I think it would have been a good movie separate from that.
Yeah.
Because it had the whole childhood element. It was back to the roots. It could have been its own movie aside from it, and it still would have done. I still would have enjoyed it. Part 2, not so much. I'll give you that one.
That's okay. I mean, yeah, I think our collective Rob Zombie hate was probably a little too heavy-handed in our last episode. He's sort of a kind of even his music is a little bit of a guilty pleasure for me. Like when I'm really feeling it, I'll turn on some old Rob Zombie tunes. And I am looking forward to 3 from Hell. That trailer dropped this week.
Yeah.
And I'm totally there for it. I'm into it. Okay, so behind the scenes look for anyone listening, I actually already asked Heidi to give me her favorite movie, so I already knew that piece of information. And because I knew that piece of information, I have just 3 little Texas Chainsaw Massacre trivia questions for you.
Ooh.
This will be fun.
And the first one, you're already going to nail it because you already said it. So I figured we'd start you off easy. And that was, what year did the original Texas Chainsaw release? A, 1969, B, 1974, or C, 1980?
B, 1974.
You got it. You already had it, but you still got it. You didn't forget in the last 5 minutes.
Well
so
done.
Great job.
Well, thank you.
All right, so we're gonna get a little bit more obscure now, and these are also just kind of fun facts. So you probably, if you don't know them, I wouldn't feel bad because they're just silly fun facts. So Tobe Hooper had a working title before he decided on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre title. Was that working title A, Meat, B, Blood in the Sand, or C, Head Cheese?
Oh, that sounds gross. Do you know?
Nah, I don't know the answer.
I don't know that one.
If you had to guess.
If I guess, well, what?
I mean,
guess is your favorite movie.
Okay, probably not Head Cheese. Unless it's Head Cheese. I think it's Head Cheese.
It's Head Cheese!
Head cheese, of course. Is there a reason behind Head Cheese?
There is a reason. There is a reason. It's been a while since I've seen the original Texas Chainsaw. We're actually going to watch it tonight after we're done recording this episode because it's been too long. And
I've never seen it.
Oh, Danny!
What?
Sorry.
What?
My whole view of the series has been a little skewed because the first one I saw was the
Next Generation
remake. God, not Next Generation.
Oh,
I've never
not
seen
even
Next
that,
Generation.
just the newer
I learned
remake.
about Next Generation today, and I would like to watch it now. I want to see Matthew McConaughey going just.
Actually, he kind of nails his part in that movie. I mean, the
He-
whole movie's
he
a little
looks
bit of a
freaking
mess,
crazy.
but yeah, he does a good job.
Yeah, it's a good one, but you have to give 1974 version. You have to watch it. It's absolutely amazing. There's so much implied gore and violence that it makes it that much scarier because you don't see everything. You have to kind of assume and connect the dots yourself in so many areas. It's perfect.
Yeah, I watched
But I'm a
the
little
trailer before I came, and a lot of that even was like those quick cutaways before a hammer smash or something like that. It's like I feel like that's exactly how the movie came out. Like there's no actual hit there, but we'll see.
You'll see. You don't know yet.
I don't know yet.
All right, so it actually, I guess it's called Head Cheese. There is a scene early in the movie where one of the characters is describing to another character how they make head cheese. So head cheese is an actual product. I believe they make it from the fat of the head of a pig.
Okay.
Yeah. Can't say that I've ever had it, but
got it.
It's probably pretty gross.
Yep. Somebody's
I knew
eating it. It's got a name.
I knew head cheese was a product. Like I've heard of it before.
Yeah.
But so when I was trying to guess, I thought back to the dinner scene or with a dinner scene.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like it would be in there.
Just serving head cheese, a little side of head cheese.
Yeah.
All right, so I got one more for you. John Larroquette, who we would later know from the 80s and early 90s TV series Night Court. He's the guy who does the opening narration. He was very young at the time, not really discovered yet as an actor. And what was his payment for doing the open narration? A joint, like literally a marijuana joint. B, an invite to the premiere. Or C, $500.
A joint.
It was a joint.
Oh god.
Yeah.
That was his payment for doing the opening narration.
70s are a different time.
I mean, that's how I pay Stefan.
So you guys get to have a little bit of a different conversation as far as this concerned, because you guys are in California. We're in Indiana, where
that's right.
things are still not legalized and it's still a little demonized even. But but yeah, I thought that was
you guys should visit California.
Hey, now we got friends.
That's true.
Yeah. Funny thing, you mentioned talking about John Larroquette. We actually just saw him. Well, we went to go see a movie marathon, and
Camp Void.
Yeah, Camp Void. So they played like 6 movies, mostly horror, but then they snuck in a couple comedies in there, and it was
it was Meatballs too.
Meatballs, yes.
He was in Meatballs too, and he was so funny.
Hilarious,
like you couldn't put this movie out today because it's so taboo, but he was the most flamboyant drill sergeant.
Yeah.
Like, it was the best thing.
That is awesome. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna kind of start to wrap up here. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about Ice Cream Parlor or anything else at all that you would like to share with our audience, who hopefully we can cross pollinate a little bit and they can become your audience as well?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, so just check out Ice Cream Parlor, the podcast. It's scream, like a guttural scream, not like the delicious dairy delight. I do want to say something a little bit, probably will be a little lovey-dovey here for a second, but I just want to say you guys are amazing. When I first launched our podcast, I didn't know who you guys were, but you were the first comment on our first post that said congrats on the launch. And that felt so good. So thank you for the support. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I mean, I remember seeing you guys in the feed, but I honestly don't even remember leaving that comment. So that actually warms the cockles of mine own heart. Thank you so much. It was really awesome having you guys on. Hopefully this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah.
I really like you guys.
Absolutely.
You're super fun. So thank you guys so much for calling in.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. That was awesome.
They're nice.
We had our first guest and they were
like
nice.
That went really well.
Danny was kind of freaked out that we would have our first guest and it would be someone that's like kind of like punking us the whole time.
Yeah, crank yankers. We got crank yanked on our own podcast.
That'd be kind of fun though. I'd be okay
funny.
with that.
Yep.
So we are gonna wrap up here in just a little bit. Actually, I guess right now we gotta get ready for our spoiler vision episode.
Yes.
Which is the where we're gonna watch a movie and then we're gonna talk about that movie and then we will post that in the podcast feed tonight.
Yep.
If those of you that are listening to this episode right now in post, you're hearing it much after the fact. You're missing out because we do this 100% live on Twitch and it's super fun. We have a ton of people hanging out with us in the chat today and it's actually really refreshing, guys. Anyone in chat, we love you.
Yeah, hello, love you.
We love you. You guys got your own conversation going on in there and you're doing incredible. It's amazing. Just
we're reading everything.
We're trying to stay.
Hilarious.
We're trying to stay in there. Okay, so so that about wraps it up for this episode. If you'd like to hear Danny and I's review on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're going to cover that in a Spoiler Vision episode. You're going to be able to find that in our podcast feed and on YouTube. Don't forget, Horror Live is the online horror house party. So you are invited, and we record live on Twitch Monday nights, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'd love for you guys to join us, engage in the conversation in real time, and a party isn't a party without guests.
Amen.
You need more guests at the party.
Yeah,
for the
two-person
party.
party is sad.
Tell me about it.
Right?
So, if you want to be a guest on the show, just like Heidi and Stefan were today, it's easy. You can literally just, as long as you have a cell phone, heck, you could call in from a landline. I don't care. As long as you have a phone, you can call in, you can hang out with us, we can talk, and we want to hear about your horror movie experiences, your horror history, some of those really weird things that happen to all of us as young kids when we're sneaking around watching movies that we're not supposed to watch. Those are some of my favorite stories in the world. So we want to hear about that. We want to talk to you about scary movies. So yeah, if you want to help out the show, or if you like us or hate us or anything at all, please rate, review, comment, like, wherever you listen. And if you don't want to do any of that, I don't care. Just tell a friend that you think this show is kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's enough for me. So thank you guys so much for listening.
This has been a production of Eek Channel. We make spooky stuff for people like you. You can discover more content like this at eekchannel.com, or find us on Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all the places. And don't be shy, we like making new friends. Thank you for tuning in, and stay eeky out there.